Seattle's rain falls soft and relentless, the way it always does in November, transforming the city into a watercolor blur of gray and amber streetlights. The smell of roasted coffee mingles with wet cedar and the metallic tang of Puget Sound carried on the wind, and I walk with my hands buried deep in the pockets of my wool coat, feeling the damp cold seep through to my bones. 700,000 people in this city, and I'm just another one, invisible in the constant flow of bodies that move without touching, that look without seeing. The daily grind sits on the second floor of a narrow building in Capitol Hill, the kind of place you only find if you're looking for it. I climb the wooden stairs that creak under my boots and push through the glass door. Warmth greets me like an embrace I didn't ask for but appreciate. Indie music plays low, almost imperceptible beneath the murmur of conversations and the hiss of the espresso machine. My table is free, as it always is at 8:45 in the morning. Back right corner, facing the wall, outlet accessible. I let my backpack slide to the floor and pull out my laptop with automatic, practiced movements. Routine. My map for navigating the world. My name is Emma. I'm 29 years old and I translate technical manuals from English to Spanish. It's solitary work, which works perfectly for me, because people are too complex, full of subtext that my brain simply can't decode. I was diagnosed with autism 2 years ago, at 27, after a burnout so severe I spent 3 weeks unable to leave my bed. The psychiatrist looked at the symptom list I'd alphabetized and said, "You're not lazy or dramatic. You're autistic." And suddenly, 27 years of feeling alien made sense. I translate 7 languages, but I never learned to speak neurotypical. The barista, Marcus, is already preparing my oat milk latte without me needing to ask. This kind of silent kindness makes me want to cry, but I just nod and smile briefly, avoiding eye contact. He sets the cup on my table and disappears, respecting my invisible bubble. I put on my noise-canceling headphones, open today's document, a cloud server installation manual, and begin translating. Words flow. English to Spanish. Protocol. System. Configuration. My mind finds its rhythm. 9:17. He arrives. I don't look directly. I never look. But my peripheral vision is sharp, trained by years of sideways observation. He rushes in, always late, brown hair messy like he just woke up. Gray hoodie today. He has 3, gray, black, and navy blue. Wears them in rotation. Large headphones around his neck. Backpack sliding off one shoulder. He orders a double espresso and sparkling water, pays with his phone without looking at Marcus, mumbles a distracted thanks. Liam. I discovered his name 3 weeks ago through a discreet LinkedIn search. Software developer specializing in artificial intelligence for accessibility. Already spoken at 2 conferences. Has published articles about voice recognition and real-time translation. 32 years old. Stanford graduate. He throws himself into his table, center of the space, next to the window. The table instantly becomes chaotic. Notebooks, pens, cables, yellow post-its stuck in layers. He opens his laptop, puts on his headphones, and disappears. Simply disappears, even though he's sitting 3 meters from me. His fingers begin dancing on the mechanical keyboard, a rhythmic, hypnotic sound that cuts through my ambient music. Click, 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 click. Fast. Frantic. Brilliant. I pretend to translate, but I'm actually translating him. The way his eyebrow furrows when he encounters a difficult problem. That specific grimace, corner of his mouth pulling down. The way he bites his lower lip when thinking. How his left leg bounces constant, an unconscious metronome. How he forgets to drink his coffee until it's completely cold. How he smiles at the screen when he solves something, a small, private smile that makes my chest tighten. I've been watching him for 8 weeks. Every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Same time. Same table. He's never seen me. It's not his fault, I think. I'm invisible by design. Discreet clothes, beige and gray tones. Hair always tied back the same way. Quiet voice on the rare occasions I need to speak. I learned early not to take up space, not to draw attention, because attention means questions, and questions mean having to explain why I am this way. Why I don't make eye contact. Why I need warning before changes. Why loud sounds make me want to crawl out of my own skin. But with him, I wanted to be seen. I just didn't know how. Week 3, Attempt 1. I left a science fiction book on the table next to his. Neuromancer, William Gibson. I saw on his LinkedIn profile that he'd posted about cyberpunk. I left the book strategically positioned, cover up, and went to the bathroom. When I returned, he'd picked up the book, flipped through it distractedly, and put it back. Didn't look for the owner. Didn't ask Marcus. Simply returned to his screen. Week 5, Attempt 2. I commented to Marcus about the new coffee on the menu, loud enough to be heard. Liam was 50 centimeters away. He was wearing headphones, heard nothing, or heard and didn't process. I felt like an idiot. Week 6, Attempt 3. I waited for him to leave to get in the elevator together. He held the door distractedly, looking at his phone. I said thank you. He said hom. Got off 2 floors before the lobby and rushed out, still looking at the screen. I don't know if he registered there was another person there. Week 7, Attempt 4. I spent 3 days writing the perfect LinkedIn message about one of his articles. Rewrote it 17 times. Sent it late at night, with courage borrowed from half a glass of wine. He viewed it. Didn't respond. I saw later he had 847 unread messages. But my brain only knew how to interpret it as rejection. Week 8, Attempt 5. I planted a flash drive near his table. When I went to return it, he glanced and said that's not mine, thanks, without even registering my face. Was already back in his code before I finished turning around. Invisibility, I realized, is a superpower I didn't want. But I kept coming back. Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. My routine now included him. My brain had mapped his presence as an essential part of the environment. Without him, the room felt wrong, incomplete. I tried to convince myself it was just observation, anthropological study, curiosity about another neurodivergent mind. Because it was obvious, to me at least, that he was too. ADHD, probably. The way he hyper-focused for hours without moving. The way he forgot things. The way his energy was either 0 or 100, no in between. Atypical minds recognize atypical minds. But recognition isn't the same as connection. And I was tired of loving from afar, tired of being the person who observes other people's lives through foggy windows. I decided, on the morning of the 9th week, that I would give up. Not on frequenting the cafe. It was my routine, my safe space, but on expecting to be seen. At least that way there would be no definitive rejection. Just the eternal possibility of maybe. It was a Thursday. Dark storm sky, that kind of 3 p.m. darkness that makes Seattle feel apocalyptic. I was translating API documentation. He was in hyperfocus for 4 straight hours. Hadn't even gone to the bathroom. The light flickered once, twice, and went completely out. The silence was shocking. The music stopped. The hum of computers died. Even the street outside seemed to hold its breath. And then, breaking the silence, I heard, "No, no, no, no." I looked at him. Really looked, directly, for the first time. He had his hands in his hair, eyes wide, visible panic. His legs were drumming frantically. He grabbed his phone, tried to get the hotspot to work, hit his laptop as if he could wake it by force of will. Marcus lit candles. People grabbed phones, complained, started leaving. But Liam was paralyzed, and I recognized that kind of paralysis. It's what happens when your brain is screaming and your body can't move. When the world takes away your control and you have no script to deal with it. I stood before thinking. My feet carried me to his table. "Did you save what you were working on?" My voice came out softer than I expected. He looked up. And saw me. Really saw me, for the first time in 8 weeks. Our eyes met. brief, intense, uncomfortable, and he blinked slowly, as if adjusting focus. I know. I didn't save. His voice was hoarse, tight. I have a laptop with full battery and hotspot. If you need it. He looked at me for a long moment. Processing. I could see calculations happening behind his eyes. Then something broke. Why are you doing this? Because I see you enter flow state every day. And I know what it's like when someone rips you out of it. I pulled out the chair and sat without asking permission. Opened my laptop, activated the hotspot, pushed it toward him. He hesitated for 3 seconds, then his hands were already on the keyboard, flying, desperate to recover what was about to be lost. I sat there in the candlelit dimness, listening to him type and mutter to himself. Power came back 40 minutes later. Lights flickered, returned to life. He saved everything frantically 3 times in different places, then closed the laptop and finally looked at me for real. You always sit in that corner, don't you? His voice was different now. Present. For 8 weeks. But who's counting? He gave a crooked, embarrassed smile. I'm really bad at this. At noticing. At people. Me too. Just in a different way. What do you mean? I needed to decide in that moment whether to be honest, whether to lower the mask I wore every day, the fake person I presented to the world. I looked at him, brown eyes, intelligent, curious, and thought, maybe this time. Level 1 autism. Late diagnosis 2 years ago. Basically, my brain processes the world using a different protocol. I paused. And you didn't notice because ADHD? He blinked again, then laughed, a surprised, genuine laugh. How did you know? I recognize hyperfocus when I see it. And you have all the signs. The constant movement, the way you disappear into the screen, how you forget to eat, to drink. Time blindness. Object permanence. Am I right? Diagnosed at 16. It's like 47 browser tabs open all the time, but only one has audio and you don't know which. He ran his hand through his hair. That's why I never sorry. Really sorry. I didn't realize you were there. Not your fault. It's neurology. And we started talking. Really talking. He told me about how deadlines were the only thing that kept him functional, how without external pressure he simply floated in chaos. I told him about how plan changes left me paralyzed for hours, how I needed 3 days' notice before any social event. He understood when I explained about masking, about spending decades pretending to be neurotypical until I couldn't anymore. I understood when he said people thought he was rude, but he simply forgot to process social things when focused. We discovered overlaps. Sensory overload, social exhaustion after too much interaction, need for routines, even if different ones. We discovered differences. I needed predictability, he needed constant novelty to keep his brain engaged. He processed emotions through movement. I processed through silence. It's like translating a language without a dictionary, I said. You know there's meaning there, but you can't access it. And I'm the guy who forgets he's speaking another language. He looked at me with something like admiration. I've never met anyone who understood this. The coffee grew cold in our hand. Late afternoon light turned to night. Marcus started stacking chairs, polite way of saying he was closing. Liam looked around, surprised, as if he'd forgotten the rest of the world existed. I made you lose your routine, he said, guilt in his voice. Yes. Pause. But it's worth it. His smile was slow, spreading across his face. Can I have your number? We exchanged numbers there, clumsy fingers on phones. He grabbed his backpack, started to leave, ran back because he forgot his jacket, laughed at himself. At the door, he turned. Emma. I'm going to try. Try to pay attention. Try to remember the world exists outside the screen. I know you will. But if you forget, I'll remind you. I stayed alone in the empty cafe, Marcus turning off lights around me. My body was exhausted, social interaction always drained me, but my mind was electric. For the first time in years, maybe in my life, I had a conversation where I didn't need to translate who I was. Didn't need to explain, justify, diminish. He simply understood. Maybe, I thought, walking home in the cold rain, I was never invisible. Maybe he just needed the right reason to look. The message came at 11 p.m. Hey. Still awake? Yes. Always up late. Me too. His typing bubble appeared, disappeared, appeared again. I was thinking. About today. About how I sat 3 meters from you for 2 months and didn't see. You were busy. Not an excuse. It's just. When I enter that state, everything else disappears. Not on purpose. But it happens. I know. I read about ADHD tonight. Read? Tonight? Special interest activated. When something fascinates me, I dive deep. And I fascinate you? I could hear the smile in the message. You fascinated me for 8 weeks. We started slow. Daily messages, always initiated by him at 8 p.m., because he set an alarm to remember. I appreciated that more than I could express. The consideration. The effort to work against his own neurology to create connection. The following Tuesday we sat together at the cafe. My routine changed, and the change was scary, but I took a deep breath and adjusted my mental map. He showed code, I translated documentation in real time. We discovered a rhythm. He created explosions of chaotic brilliance, I organized the ruins into something comprehensible. Yin and yang of neurodivergent minds. He remembered I drank oat milk lattes. Small detail, but huge for me. It meant he was paying attention, even with ADHD, even with the tendency to forget everything. On Saturday, he invited me to a bookstore on Capitol Hill. We walked slowly down Broadway, him talking fast about a new project, hands gesturing. I listened, processing, asking specific questions that made him stop and really think. At the bookstore, he showed me the science fiction section, I showed him linguistics. He bought an etymology book I'd mentioned once, casually, 3 days before. I was speechless. You remembered. I try to remember the important things. He looked at his own feet. You're important. Crossing the street, he grabbed my hand instinctively, then froze, realizing what he'd done. Tried to let go, but I held on. It's okay. That was good. We tried dinner at a restaurant. It was a disaster. Too much noise, fluorescent lights, overlapping smells. I put on my headphones within 5 minutes. He got restless, leg drumming frantically. We left before the order arrived and ended up eating croissants on a park bench, laughing at our shared failure. I thought I could handle it. For you, he said, looking at the croissant with genuine disappointment. You don't need to force yourself with me. I looked at him until he looked back. I spend my whole life forcing myself to be neurotypical. I don't want you to do the same. We can create our own way. Our own protocol. Exactly. 15 days after the blackout, at 2 a.m, he texted me. Deadline tomorrow. Total panic. Are you awake? Always. Need help? I need you. I took an Uber across sleeping Seattle, arrived at his shared office space. He was wild, hair in all directions, red eyes, fingers flying on the keyboard. I sat on the old couch, opened my own laptop, and worked in silence while he fought with code. Parallel companionship. 2 people hyper-focused in their own worlds, but in the same room, and somehow that meant everything. The sun rose pink over Seattle, light filtering through the dusty window. He hit submit, closed the laptop, and looked at me with amazement. You stayed here with me. Hyper-focus in pairs. It's new. He came to sit beside me, body trembling with adrenaline and exhaustion. Rested his head on my shoulder, asking without words, and I allowed it. We stayed like that while the city woke outside, noisy and indifferent. On Sunday, he proposed. Experimental neurotypical activity. Discovery Park, walk without purpose, do couple things. I laughed and agreed. We walked slowly, watched ducks, people jogging, families with children. He had restless energy, I was processing too many stimuli. We sat on the grass, and he simply lay down in my lap. Didn't ask. just happened. I froze for 3 seconds, then relaxed my hands in his hair. You're the first person who doesn't make me want to run, he said, eyes closed. You're the first person who doesn't make me want to hide. A month later, he came to my apartment for the first time. Brought flowers, rehearsed gesture but adorable. We put on a movie, subtitled Low Lights, but forgot about it in 20 minutes. We kissed for the first time. Slow, consultative, each movement checked and confirmed. My brain, always too fast or too slow, was finally at the right speed. And then, of course, came the first real problem. Liam got a big project with a brutal deadline, plus a conference in Austin. 2 weeks away, intense work. He warned me, worried, and I said I understood. I understood. Logically. Emotionally was another story, but I could manage 2 weeks. The first 3 days were good. Sparse but present messages. Day 4, silence. Day 5, nothing. Day 6, messages undelivered. Calls straight to voicemail. I saw him active on LinkedIn, posting about the project. Had time for social media. Didn't have time for me. My autistic brain needs logic, patterns, predictability. Without data, it creates stories to fill the void. And all the stories I created were bad. He realized I'm too much. He met someone normal. He felt sorry for me and now doesn't know how to end it. He forgot me completely. Week 2 was worse. I stopped going to the cafe. My routine collapsed. Without routine, I collapsed. Translated mechanically, ate when I remembered, slept at random times. Partial shutdown. Survival mode. My friend Claire noticed. Called me, insisted until I answered. Did you talk to him? He doesn't respond. No, Emma. Did you talk to him about how ADHD works? About object permanence? Time blindness? Long pause. No. She sent me articles. I read obsessively, special interest activated by pain. And I realized I was applying neurotypical logic to a neurodivergent brain. For him, 2 weeks in hyperfocus were 2 subjective hours. He wasn't avoiding me. He had literally forgotten time was passing. Forgotten I existed, not out of malice, but because object not present is object non-existent. It wasn't rejection. It was neurology. That didn't remove the pain. But it changed the meaning. Day 10, I went back to the cafe. Intuition or desperation. At 9:35, he arrived. Saw me, smiled huge, waved. Hey. Wow, long time. Long time? Liam, it's been 10 days. The smile died. He pulled out his phone, looked at dates, and visibly paled. I thought it had been 3 days. We went outside to the sidewalk. Fine rain. Loud traffic. Me with arms crossed, him with hands in pockets, both unsure how to start. Emma, I didn't. When I go into that, I lose everything. He showed the phone. 89 unread notifications. 12 were yours. Not an excuse. But it's an explanation. You left me in a void. My voice came out controlled but firm. I don't know how to deal with voids, Liam. I need data, logic. My brain doesn't accept maybe. If you leave, I need to know when you're coming back. I know. He ran his hands over his face. I know, and I still failed. It's just. You know presentation laser pointers? Sharp focus, super powerful? Yes. My brain is that. But I don't control where the laser points. Sometimes it's code. Sometimes it's you. But when it's code, everything else disappears. Doesn't vanish. Just leaves the field of vision. I took a deep breath. For me it's different. Imagine a house with all the rooms mapped. I know where everything is. Routine is the map. When something breaks the pattern, it's like the whole house changes places. When you disappeared, it was like erasing the map. I got lost in my own house. He looked at me, processing. So you need checkpoints? Time markers? Yes. Even if it's just, hi, I'm alive, talk Tuesday. I can do that. But I need you to remind me if I forget. It's not my job to manage you. No. He took a step closer. But it's both our jobs to adapt. I set alarms. You forgive me when they fail. I try. You communicate when it's not enough. We create a system. We create a protocol. Exactly. Right there, on the wet sidewalk, we created rules. Alarms for messages every 2 days minimum. Communication code. Laser mode activated meant hyperfocus, automatic message with predicted return. We noted it in his phone, tested it, adjusted. The nerdiest couple impossible. Emma, he said, serious, I've never cared like this before. Usually when someone complains that I disappear, I just let them disappear. With you, I want to come back. I just need help remembering how. I've never let anyone get close. It's scary. Pause. But you're the first person who makes the discomfort worth it. He opened his arms, silent question. I entered the embrace. We stayed there while rain became heavier rain, neither wanting to move. Your hoodie is soaked. Don't care. We went in, ordered hot chocolate, sat together. He showed photos from the conference. Had taken them thinking he'd tell me later, forgot to tell me. I showed translations I'd done, work I normally didn't share with anyone. We returned to rhythm. But now with a system. The system worked. Not perfectly, never perfectly, but it worked. Alarm rang, he paused, sent message. Emma, laser mode, deadline Thursday, call you Friday. I responded. Received, coffee Saturday? And I had predictability. He had freedom. Both had peace. I learned to signal. Battery at 20% meant I need silence. He learned when I turned off camera on video calls, it wasn't rejection, it was sensory overload. We developed parallel meetings. Same room, each in our own world, presence without demand. We discovered I liked physical contact on my terms. Deep pressure, tight hug, calmed me. We created ritual. 3-minute hug when meeting, timed on stopwatch. He discovered unexpected touch startled him too, that warnings were kind, not cold. We stopped using subtext. I want to be alone wasn't rejection, it was necessity. I completely forgot wasn't carelessness, it was ADHD. We named feelings, diagnosed problems, applied solutions. Conflicts decreased dramatically. He learned about etymology, my special interest. I learned about data architecture, his. We had 3-hour conversations about hyper-specific subjects that would make any neurotypical person die of boredom. Neither of us faked interest or changed the subject. 6 months later, we moved in together. 2-bedroom apartment. One became silent office for me. Whiteboard on the fridge with weekly routine, different colors for fixed versus flexible commitment. He still went into hyper-focus and disappeared, but warned. I still had shutdowns, but he recognized signs. A year later, families still didn't completely understand, but respected. The world still wasn't made for us, but we created our own bubble. Friends asked how we made it work, as if neurodivergent relationship was impossible code to decipher. The truth was simple. We didn't try to be normal. We created our own version of normal. 18 months later, he went into hyper-focus on a secret project. 3 weeks of mystery. I noticed but didn't ask. Learned he'd tell when ready. Saw him talking to Claire, asking for information about me, surprising social initiative. Friday night, he asked me to be free. Against all my nature, I trusted without details. He picked me up in a borrowed car. Didn't drive, had asked a friend. First destination. Old bookstore downtown that I'd mentioned 6 months before, once casually. He remembered. You said you always wanted to go but had trouble getting downtown alone. I was speechless. We spent an hour there, him buying time while night fell. Second destination. Rooftop of building in Capitol Hill. Access obtained through friend of friend. View of Seattle at night, millions of lights blinking. But what broke me was the preparation. Blanket with specific texture I liked. Backup noise-canceling headphones. Food from favorite restaurant, delivered at exact timing. Soft LED lights, not fluorescent. Every detail thought out, researched, executed. And then, the main surprise. He created an app. Simple interface, 2 connected buttons. When I pressed, it lit a notification on his. Thinking of you. When he pressed, it lit on mine. For when I go into hyperfocus, so I remember you exist. And so you know that, even without messages, I'm here. I cried. I rarely cry. You built an object permanence system for us. I translated my neurology into code. To work with yours. We lay on the blanket, looking at sky without stars, Seattle pollution, but it didn't matter. I was seeing everything I needed to see. I thought no one would have patience with me, I said. I thought no one would have patience with me. Funny. We don't need patience. We need understanding. And compatible operating systems. We laughed, sound echoing in rooftop silence. You know I'm terrible with words at the right time, he said, serious now. But I love you. Like permanent hyperfocus. You became my favorite special interest. You know I analyze everything to death before speaking. But I love you. You're the first person who doesn't make me want to translate who I am. We stayed until late, Seattle noisy below, us in silent bubble. First time I said, I can imagine a future with you. I'd already imagined. Many times. In hyper detail. 3 years after the blackout that changed everything, we're in the same cafe. Tuesday morning, fine rain outside. Established routine. Me translating, him coding, same space, parallel worlds. Alarm rings on his phone, human pause. We stop, make coffee together, connection ritual in the middle of work. He still forgets things, goes into hyper-focus, disappears mentally. But warns. I still have shutdowns, sensory overload, need days alone. But communicate. We fight less. Resolve faster. Need to recalibrate became common phrase from both, without judgment, just data. Families still don't completely understand. World still isn't made for us. But we created our own system, love protocol and language only we speak. People ask how we make it work, as if neurodivergent relationship was impossible to decipher. But the truth is simple, we don't try to be normal. We created our own version of normal. We don't cure each other, there's nothing to cure. We just build bridges between two different types of minds, translate for each other, create shared dictionary. Coffee grows cold. Sun shifts position through the window. Liam looks at me over his laptop screen. You have that deep etymology face. I was thinking about the origin of the word compatible. Comes from Latin. Com plus pati. To suffer together. Kind of depressing. Or realistic. Relationships are hard. For everyone. The difference is we admit it from the start. I return to translation, he to code. Subtle movement. Our hands meet in the middle of the table. Stay like that, connected, each in our own world but anchored to each other. Seattle noisy outside. Us in silent synchrony. Invisibility, I learned, isn't about not being seen. It's about not being seen by the right person. And when finally someone looks for real, adjusts focus, sees beyond the obvious, beyond the mask, beyond the social protocol we never could follow properly, well, then you realize you were never invisible. You were just waiting for someone who knew how to look. And when that person appears, when they don't just look but really see, when they don't try to fix you but learn your language, when you both stop translating who you are and simply exist in original code, then you discover that possible love isn't the one that makes you normal. It's the one that lets you be completely, magnificently, strangely yourself. And there's someone there on the other side of the table, being completely, magnificently, strangely themselves. And somehow, miraculously, the strangenesses fit. The end.